Hello, my name is Matthew Genslinger, pastor at the New Church of Concord. I'm here to tell you what we talked about in church this last Sunday. Now, on Sunday, I began by asking the children a very simple question. Do you want to someday go to heaven? And you can probably guess that everybody answered with a yes. We all think about going to heaven someday and hope that we someday do. Well, in the story we read on Sunday, the Lord reminds us, and he reminded his disciples, that if we want to someday go to heaven, and if we want to be happy forever, one of the things we need to do is we need to be conjoined to the Lord. And that word conjoined means that we need to be together with the Lord, or sort of attached to the Lord. Again, if we someday want to go to heaven. So let me read for you from the Gospel of John, chapter 15, where the Lord talks about how we need to be conjoined with him, and he explains it in terms of a branch needing to be conjoined or attached to a vine. So we read, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bring forth fruit, he takes it away. And every one that brings forth fruit, he prunes it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Already you are clean through the word that I have spoken to you. Remain in me, and I in you, for as the branch cannot bring forth fruit from itself unless it remains in the vine, no more can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who remains in me and I in him, this one brings forth much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. If you keep my commandments, you shall remain in my love, as I have kept the commandments of my Father and remain in his love. These things have I spoken to you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be filled. Amen. So, have any of you ever seen a grapevine before? I'm sure some of you have. I have a picture here of a grapevine that I'm hoping you can see fairly well. And if you look at this grapevine, one of the things you will notice is that there is sort of a main trunk to this grapevine that you might call the vine itself. And then out from this main vine, there comes many, many different branches, right? And each of these branches you'll see have some grapes growing on them. And the reason that these branches are even alive or are able to grow grapes is because they are attached to this vine. And it's through this vine that the branches receive nutrients and water from the soil, right? So that again, they can live and ultimately bring forth grapes. Now on Sunday, I asked the children to think about, though, what would happen to one of these branches if I decided to take some scissors and I were to cut one of these branches off of the vine. Well, first of all, that branch that I cut off of the vine would no longer be able to grow any grapes, right? But in some ways, even worse than that, that branch that I cut off of the vine would eventually, what? It would die, wouldn't it? And on Sunday, again, I actually cut a branch off of a tree, and this is the one I cut off here. And you can see that this branch that I cut off of its trunk is already beginning to wilt a little bit. And eventually, it will die completely. Well, in the story we read for today, the Lord reminded us that he is like the vine. He's like the vine, and we are like the branches. And so, just like the branch of a vine will end up dying if it's not connected or together with the vine itself, we will end up dying, at least dying spiritually, and we will end up not being able to go to heaven or being happy to eternity if we are not somehow connected or again attached or conjoined to the Lord himself. Now, one question we might ask ourselves is, well, why do we need to be connected to the Lord? Why do we need to be conjoined to the Lord if we want to someday go to heaven? Well, it's very simple. We know that all life comes from the Lord himself, right? And not only does all life come from the Lord himself, where does all love come from? The Lord, right? Where does all wisdom come from? The Lord. When we go out and do good things for other people, where does our ability to even do good things for others come from? It all comes from the Lord. And so, because all life comes from the Lord, and because everything that is good and true comes from the Lord, it makes sense that we need to be attached to him or connected to him if we want to someday go to heaven and be eternally happy. Again, just like a branch needs to be connected to that vine. Now, one other question that I asked the children on Sunday might sound a little bit difficult, but the answer is really pretty simple. If we know now that we need to be attached or conjoined to the Lord in order to go to heaven, how do we do this? How do we become attached to the Lord? Well, if you were listening in the reading we did from the Gospel of John, the Lord actually gives us the answer to this question. He tells us that if we want to be attached to him, we simply need to keep or obey his commandments. Again, we all know that we need to learn the Lord's commandments, right? But it's only as we learn his commandments and obey them or follow him that we end up becoming attached or conjoined to the Lord in a beautiful way. And that is when the Lord will be able to lead us to heaven and to a place in his heavenly kingdom where we will be eternally happy. All right, so a pretty simple but a beautiful story and message for today. Again, the Lord tells us that he is the vine and we are these branches, reminding us that if we want to be happy, just like a branch needs to be connected to the vine in order to live and to thrive, we need to be connected to the Lord in order to do the same. Okay, so think about being connected to the Lord a little bit this week and how important that is, that you do that by following his commandments. And I look forward to talking with you next week about another wonderful story from the Lord's Word.